team shocked the college basketball world on Friday by upsetting #1 North Carolina in the Sweet 16. And the Tigers did it again today, beating #2 Kentucky in overtime to advance to their first ever Final Four. All the Auburn coverage you need is on The Last Call, and it starts right now. Welcome back to The Last Call. I'm your host, Justin Holbrook, and I got pelted with this a lot this week. We're coming up on the final minutes of March, and man, there was plenty of madness this week, especially for the Auburn Tigers. Let's get right to it and run it back. Auburn was on the verge of making more history Friday night. More because these Tigers are the first Auburn team since 2003 to make it to the Sweet 16. And a win over #1 North Carolina would put the Tigers in the Elite Eight for just the second time in school history and first time since 1986. Roy Williams has been to 8 Elite Eights. Bruce Pearl just won at Tennessee. There they are. First half, the big man, Horace Spencer, comes up with the steal, gliding down the court like a gazelle, makes the layup. Auburn trails by 1. Cam Johnson, who had a fever of 100 yesterday, has a fever of 3 today. That's because he nailed that three-pointer to give the Tar Heels a 5-point lead, but Auburn erases it. Javon McCormick at the buzzer. Tigers up 41-39. Second half, Bryce Brown had 0 points in the first half, but he changes that right out of the gate, 47-39. Roy Williams, none too happy about that. His team down by 10. Chuma Okeke, 12 points in the first half, keeps it going and 1. Tigers lead by 10 again. But North Carolina has a pretty good big man too. Luke May going to hit the turnaround J, makes it a 6-point game. Tigers still up. D'Angelo Purifoy coming up big off the bench. He knocked down 4 threes in the second half, including this one to make it a 16-point game. Pivotal moment in the game. Chuma Okeke goes up and lands awkwardly on his left leg. He goes down screaming in pain. He walked off the court a few minutes later but would not return. But instead of letting that affect the game, Auburn rallies and keeps its foot on the gas. Harper behind the back to Anthony McLemore, who uses the backboard. And finally, Bryce Brown caps off the game in style with the steal and the slam. Auburn wins 97-80 to advance to the Elite Eight for the first time in 33 years. Here's Bruce Pearl on Chuma Okeke's injury and impact on that game.
We're pretty emotional because it's a bittersweet accomplishment because of Chuma getting hurt late in the game. Nobody works harder. Nobody gives us more courage. When it gets tough and you got to go to a matchup, we got 5 and you don't. That's how we felt. In a game full of guys that are going to get a chance to play at the next level, I thought he was the best player. And that has happened a lot to us this year. So we're disappointed that he may be lost, but we are very, very grateful.
We found out the next day his injury was just as bad as it looked. Torn ACL, out for the season, but he and his teammates and all of the Auburn fans back at home were celebrating their historic win. For the first time since 1986 and just the second time in program history, the Auburn Tigers are elite. The Tigers shocked #1 North Carolina, beating them by 17 points in Kansas City to head to the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament. And how sweet it is. Just listen to this crowd.
It's not a great game. You know, we're shooting it from downtown, from Opelika. We're out here, we're winning basketball games, baby. Let's keep it going.
Man, just seeing how this university gets behind their sports, man, it's just great for us new guys just to see, just to jump into that kind of culture, man. This place is great. Hey, we're going all the way. War Eagle, baby. War Eagle. I don't know, the time and the effort they put in, I think it's our time.
It is our time, and I think we need to do it for Chuma. We need to do it for Okeke.
We can win it because we're Auburn. I mean, we got heart, we got intelligence, and we play together. I mean, what else can you love more than that? We're Auburn, baby, and we're going to keep going until the end.
All right, so the last time Auburn played Kentucky, the Tigers lost by 27 points. It was their worst loss of the season, but it was also a turning point. Since that beatdown in Lexington, Auburn won 11 games in a row, including that shocking upset of #1 North Carolina, giving the Tigers a date in the Elite Eight against Kentucky. Auburn playing without arguably its best all-around player in Chuma Okeke. There you see Malik Dunbar wearing his jersey in warm-ups. He made it to the game in the second half. Would he be enough to motivate this team? First half, Tyler Hero for the three. Yes, 17-7 UK on top. And then Jared Harper pulls up for three, makes it, and one. The free throw is good. Tigers trail by 5 at the half, 35-30. With Chuma out, the Tigers had to have a big game from Harper and Bryce Brown. Off his missed free throw, Brown snatches the ball, steps behind the three-point line, and buries it 40-37. First Auburn lead of the game. No lead was safe in this game, though. P.J. Washington, alley-oop. Wildcats back on top. D'Angelo Purifoy getting significant minutes with Okeke out. The rim gives him a Tiger bounce, and Auburn leads by 4 with less than 9 to go. We jump to a minute left in the game. Score tied at 58. Washington rebound and baby hook. Wildcats lead by 2. Auburn calls a timeout. You know it's going to either Brown or Harper. And Brown gets double teamed, so he gives it up to Harper, who attacks the basket. And oh yeah, you know it. It goes in. Tie game. We're headed to overtime. Early in the season, Bruce Pearl said, "Sometimes we win because we have Jared Harper and they don't." And this is why he said that. Harper, back-to-back layups in overtime, and Auburn leads by 4 with 3:45 left. Auburn up by 5 now with just over a minute to play. And who else is it going to go to than the floor general? Jared Harper attacks the glass, and once again, you got to be kidding me. 26 points, 12 in overtime, and Auburn beats Kentucky 77-71 as the Tigers advance to their first ever Final Four. And who else but Chuma Okeke raising that trophy. Auburn, how you feeling?
The first time in Auburn history in the Final Four, so you know, a lot of emotions right now. But for us to anything else, we did it for Chuma, man. Everything we did was for Chuma today, man. Everything we did for here on out is for Chuma, bro. A man down, you feel me? That's all we want to do is show him how we all want to play for him.
Oh, this is a great feeling just to think that how much work we put in as a team. Coming in this season, our goals were to get to the Final Four and be able to compete for a national championship. That's what we wanted to do. That's what we prepared this whole time for, the whole offseason, during the season. Everything was for this moment right here. So this is a tribute to all my teammates and how well we played together. All that I couldn't do without them.
It's kind of unreal. It's very surreal. I'm happy for our fans. I'm happy for our kids. I promised them that we could be competitive. I don't know that I had a Final Four in mind.
I don't know if anybody thought they had a Final Four in mind, but well, here they are. So coming up, Jack Patterson and myself take a look back at how Auburn got to this point and how they stack up against their Final Four opponent, Virginia, and we take you inside the celebration on Toomer's Corner. For the first time in school history, the Auburn Tigers are headed to the Final Four. The Tigers did so without their best player, Chuma Okeke. In this tournament, they beat Kansas, #1 North Carolina, and #2 Kentucky, the only team to ever beat those 3 teams in the same tournament, and now they're Final Four bound.
We're a basketball school from now on, I would say.
You think this only comes with football? We're doing it with basketball! We're going to the Final Four to win it all, baby! Let's go!
Honestly, I just have no words. It's great to be an Auburn Tiger. I mean, look around at this atmosphere. I know every college has their own atmosphere, but there's nothing like this.
We won it. Unfinished business. We're not done.
We gon'
of my life, without a doubt.
The little train that could. They say it's impossible, then the impossible gets done.
The Tigers have a 12-game win streak heading into the Final Four. They'll still be without Chuma Okeke, but they'll have plenty of momentum when they face the Virginia Cavaliers in Minneapolis next Saturday. Signing off on your side from Toomer's Corner in Auburn, Justin Holbrook, News 3 Sports. Okay, so they roll Toomer's Corner, and what do we do?
Roll a set.
We roll the set. If you haven't heard, I don't know where you've been, but Auburn advanced to their first ever Final Four, beating Kentucky 77-71 in overtime, nonetheless.
Which means they pulled me out of the bullpen, and I'm back for the first time in a month.
All right, so what we're doing is we're going to break down how Auburn got to the Final Four in Minneapolis and who they're facing and how they match up against the Virginia Cavaliers. Jack, let's start with how Auburn got to this point. What did you see from the team throughout the tournament?
Well, I think we have to start back at the SEC tournament.
Sure.
You look back to the last couple of games against Florida and Tennessee. That's when you kind of felt like Auburn could do something. We did our live stream on Facebook where we were surprised that Auburn got a 5 seed in the tournament. And look at us now. It looks like we were right that 5 seed was grossly underranked.
Well, I think we were verified in that, but also when you saw who they had to play. Number 4 Kansas, not the same Kansas team, but they had to beat them. They did. Then they had to beat North Carolina, a team that plays very similar to the Tigers do. They went and they beat the Tar Heels, but they didn't just beat them. They scored 97, the most points they've ever scored in an NCAA tournament game. Beat them by 17, and then they had to play Kentucky, who they lost to by 27 back in February.
Their last loss.
That was their last loss before going on an 11-game winning streak.
Now 12.
And by the way, Auburn became the first team to ever beat Kansas and North Carolina in the same tournament, and they went ahead and added Kentucky to that list.
I mean, we're talking about the blue blood killer now at this point, right?
Well, and the strange thing was, for me at least, is that they almost lost to New Mexico State in the very first round.
Yeah.
New Mexico State was at the free throw line with seconds left. They had 3 shots, Auburn up by 2. They only hit 1, but the ball went out of bounds. New Mexico State had a chance to win the game on a 3-pointer air ball, and you know what? Fast forward 3 games later, and we're here.
You blow out Kansas, you blow out Carolina, and then you survive Kentucky. I mean, this team is unstoppable at this point.
Let's shift gears now and talk about Virginia and Auburn, how they match up, and the 2 very different styles they have.
Well, when you start talking about Virginia, you start talking about their defense. Tony Bennett has an amazing scheme that was vilified after last year's upset loss to UMBC, but this has been kind of the avenge tour for Virginia. Ty Jerome and Kyle Guy are phenomenal players. They both showed up and showed out in that game against Purdue on Saturday night, and Auburn's key to success is going to have to stop those 2.
Yeah, so Virginia, a very defensive team. They like to have a very slow game when they're on offense. Auburn, the complete opposite. They like to move very quickly. They like to make you uncomfortable. So 2 different styles clashing. Virginia, though, they beat Purdue in overtime. Auburn obviously beat Kentucky in overtime. So when it comes to who's tired, who's not tired, both of these teams are on the same playing field.
Exactly.
It's going to be a good game either way. And those games are where, Jack?
Right here, News 3, we are your home for the Final Four and the National Championship game on April 8th.
And if Auburn is able to beat Virginia, they'll play the winner of Texas Tech and Michigan State. Can't believe they're in the Final Four, but they have a chance 2 games away.
2019 has been a wild year, man.
2 games away from winning the national championship.
The Auburn Tigers are this close to winning the national championship.
They are a football school no longer. They are an everything school, including basketball. All right, we'll be right back after this. Back here in the Valley, it's the end of an era for the Columbus State women's basketball team. Head coach Anita Howard is leaving the Division II Cougars for the Division I Eagles of Georgia Southern. Howard coached CSU for 3 seasons, leading the team to 2 NCAA tournament appearances. In her first season at the helm, the Cougars went 31-2 and won the Peach Belt regular season and tournament title. Howard had an overall record of 129 wins and 42 losses at CSU. So CSU is looking for a new head coach, but Alabama found theirs this week. On Thursday, the Tide introduced new head coach Nate Oates, who replaces Avery Johnson. Oates comes from Buffalo, where he coached for 4 years and led the team to back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances. He was also named the MAC Coach of the Year in each of the past 2 seasons. Less than 6 years ago, Oates was teaching 5 math classes a day while coaching high school basketball in Michigan, and now he's the head coach of a team in the SEC.
We're going to work our tail off to get this program, and again, I'm not one to oversell and underdeliver, so I'm not making huge promises, but I'm going to say this: the football programs set the standard of excellence around here at the highest possible level you could set for anything. We're going to work our tails off every day to get this thing rolling in that direction. And we talk about max effort. That's everything. That's every workout, every weight room session, every practice. Our guys are going to give max effort. We're going to demand it out of them.
But Bama parting ways with Avery Johnson may have come at a cost other than having to buy him out. That's because after the decision was announced to move forward without Johnson, all-SEC freshman Kira Lewis Jr. entered the transfer portal. Lewis led the team in points and assists, and he already has interest from teams such as Duke, Auburn, and Tennessee. Sophomore guard John Petty followed his teammate into the portal. Sounds very ominous, and it should to Tide fans, because Petty averaged the 2nd most rebounds a game, 2nd most minutes a game, and 3rd most points a game. But good news, just days after entering the portal, Petty decided to stay at Alabama after speaking with his new head coach. So Oates was able to re-recruit Petty, and Georgia snagged a pretty solid recruit this week as well. 5-star guard Anthony Edwards out of Atlanta chose the Dogs over blue blood programs such as Kentucky, Kansas, and North Carolina. Just to refresh your memory, 2nd-year head coach Tom Crean also coached NBA superstars like Indiana's Victor Oladipo and Marquette's Dwayne Wade. All right, for the first time in 5 years, the Atlanta Braves start a new season as the defending champs of the NL East, but many are picking the Phillies to win the pennant. Who would win the first game of the season? We'll show you after this. For the first time in 5 years, the Atlanta Braves start a new season as the defending champs of the NL East. But despite that, most experts don't have Atlanta winning the pennant for a 2nd year in a row. Some have the Nationals winning the East, while many have the Phillies, who have this guy. Bryce Harper making his debut with Philly after signing for an amount with lots of zeros in it. But it was another new Philly who made his name known right off the bat. Yes, pun intended. Andrew McCutchen, back in the state of Pennsylvania. The former Pirate, in his first at-bat, gets some brotherly love from the fans, and they're up 1-0. But the Braves get it back in the 2nd. 2018 All-Star Nick Markakis gets it by the 2nd baseman. Ronald Acuna Jr. is in for the first run of the season. Markakis is thrown out at 2nd, but the run still counts, and we're tied. Phils go up 3-1, and Michael Franco says you better make it 3 more. 3-run shot to left, and just like that, the Phillies lead 6-1 in the 6th. Braves get 2 back in the top of the 7th, so it's 6-3 now. Atlanta walks Bryce Harper to load the bases for Rhys Hoskins. He felt a little disrespected by that. Grand slam, first of his career, and that'll do it. Braves fall 10-4 on opening day. They also lose the series to the Phillies. All right. Capital City Classic, Auburn head coach Butch Thompson shaking hands with Alabama head coach Brad Bohannon, who coached with Thompson in 2016. No score, top of the 2nd. Connor Davis rips one to right, but Tyler Gentry makes a great sliding catch. Bottom of the inning, Drew Williamson gets it through the infield. A little bobble allows Gentry to score the first run of the game, and it's 1-0 Alabama. Pretty good pitching early on for Alabama's Tyler Ross. Strikes out Auburn's leadoff man Will Holland to end the top of the 3rd. Tigers' Garrett Wade struggled a bit with control, but he gets strike 3 to strand a runner at 3rd to end the 3rd, still 1-0. Runners on 1st and 2nd for Davis. Shortstop makes a great stop, but not such a great throw to 1st. The ball gets by the first baseman, and that allows Steven Williams to score, and we are tied at 1. Tigers struggled in the 4th. Wade allows a bases-loaded walk, and then his replacement, Richard Fitz, does the same. 3-1 at that point. Auburn actually tied it at 3 in the 7th, but Alabama scored 3 more in the 8th to win 6-3. All right, last on the last call. It's been a month since the deadly tornado that claimed the lives of 23 people. Coming up, the message Bruce Pearl and the Auburn basketball team have for the community of Beauregard. Exactly 1 month ago, Lee County was torn apart by a devastating tornado that claimed the lives of 23 people in Beauregard. It was the deadliest tornado in the U.S. in nearly 6 years, and it rocked a small town to its core. The entire nation saw the devastation in a county that includes Auburn, Alabama. Smith Station and Beauregard got the worst of it, while Auburn went largely unscathed. But it was still impacted, and it impacted the people of Auburn who wanted to help their neighbors recover, including the basketball team. Bruce Pearl made it his mission to bring his team to Beauregard a week later on March 11th to greet the Beauregard elementary school teachers on their first day back at school. The entire team went back on Tuesday to do the same for the elementary students. During Auburn's run in the SEC tournament, Pearl said they were thinking of that small town of Beauregard and playing for them. And I have no doubt he and the entire Auburn basketball team are still playing for those people, that town, and the victims that were lost on March 3rd. Thanks so much for watching The Last Call. That's going to do it. Like Jack said, the Final Four is on WRBL. Congratulations to Auburn and War Eagle.